Hi, welcome to learnhowtogarden.com, and in today's episode we're going to be talking about jobs you can do in the Northern Hemisphere in May. If you're not already subscribed to us at Learn How to Garden, there's a link directly below the film. Hop over there, just input your email address, and it means every time I put up a new film I can let you know, and it also means you get access to our newsletter each month, which is great to watch for sort of 10-15 minutes, and it sort of covers topics slightly in a bit more detail and interviews with people we find interesting in the horticultural world. It's my birthday today and I'm quite pleased about that, and the reason I'm quite pleased is that on my birthday last year I was actually lying in 3 tons of freezing cold seaweed doing the post about why seaweed is good for your garden. So being able to stand here in the polytunnel is a warmer and, one has to say, sort of drier change to it all. The real sort of excitement for me in May is it's April, May are the big sowing months. That's when most of your veg gets in, when most of your veg gets growing. And this year in the Northern Hemisphere, I reckon we are probably a month behind. So it's probably not too late to sow a lot of things. And I've read on 1 or 2 sites, you know, you can still sow your tomatoes and your chilies. Now, I'd probably slightly disagree with that. If you're going to grow short season tomatoes or determinate bush tomatoes, you might be able to, but this is the size you really want your tomato plants to be looking about now. Quite short, quite stumpy. Next time I pop this on, I'll actually drop the tomato to these leaves. There's a film about why you do that and how you can actually get far more growth out of your tomatoes by doing it. And it's also the time when you need to think about what method you're going to use for growing your tomatoes, and a lot of that depends on the space you've got. You could grow it in the open ground in your greenhouse or your tunnel, and that's great if you've got the space, and last year we did that for half of our tomatoes and they had fantastic taste and grew really well. The classic way for a lot of people is grow bags. I would say don't use a grow bag unless you're going to put a grow pot on top. It makes a dramatic difference. If you're growing probably less than half a dozen plants and you've got a sort of greenhouse, an average 6x8 greenhouse, my real recommendation would be a quad grow. It comes from a company called Greenhouse Sensations. You basically get 4 large pots and a reservoir. It'll double the crop of each one of those tomatoes. So you basically are going to get the same crop as 8 tomatoes from the space of 4. And it also means by using the reservoir, you only need to water the plants about once every 4 days, and for a lot of us who are busy, that is a real benefit. It also brings into play one of the sort of real quirks about tomatoes. They want access to water, but they need lots of air around their roots, which is why if you look closely at this, you'll notice there's quite a bit of perlite. One of the things I've always found, if you add about 1/3 perlite to your potting composts, again, dramatic change for tomatoes. Don't try to grow your tomatoes too leggy and thin. They'll actually get a lot of disease. What we're looking at on the bench here again are things that we sowed last month. This is our parsley. We sowed 12. We've got germination on 10, which is quite good. If you do get germination on more than 1, you need to thin out again to the strongest leaf, and that's just a matter of pinching out. But what you can see already on here is little white roots starting to appear. The advantage of growing in modules or root trainers or growing in these little jiffy blocks is that these tiny little roots, as they grow out, get what is referred to as air pruned. The air dries them out, which creates far more roots within inside, so you get quite a strong little root system before you plant it out. Here we've got a selection of some Japanese greens, this is red-leafed dandelion, we've got rainbow chard. These will be planted out in a checkerboard system as close to my kitchen door as I can. The thing about growing your own leaves, growing your own salads, is you want it as fresh as possible, and growing in a checkerboard system makes a huge difference. This is our Brussels sprouts, purple leaf broccoli and some collie. Again, get it in now. But what I need to notice is a lot of these plants are quite short and squat. I noticed, I was in the garden centre with my mum a couple of days ago. There's a lot of things available in the garden centre now. They all look very pale. They're all twice the size of this, and they've been grown to catch you out, in that bigger isn't always better. Grow them slower and tougher, and you'll get better plants. A lot of the things I saw in the garden centre will just die if you put them in the garden. They're too weak, their cell structure is far too elongated, and they're very soft. They've been grown very soft, which means they are absolutely manna from heaven for insects. And as everything else is waking up in our garden, so are all those sort of, green fly and aphids and everything else that's out there. And one of the things that shocked me most was lots of beans about this high. I only just start to sow my beans. And this year, these are my three favourite beans. This is a Borlotti bean, produces really quite large beans, which make fantastic sauces to go with pasta. Quite a large French bean, fantastic again in salads. I love that. And last but not least, butter beans. Again, you're only going to get 3 to 4 of these in a pod, but great. I'll also be growing some runners because my mom likes runner beans. Great time for getting your courgettes or your pumpkins or your winter squash in. And this is just to show you that even I am not impervious to marketing. I always say try and choose things that are really good value, and try and choose things that aren't, it's not more substance than it's not more show than substance. Villandre is one of my favourite gardens in northern France. I called a couple of weeks ago on my way back from the Alps, and they grow a lot of pumpkins, and a couple of the pumpkins I grow anyway, but this seed packet was a fortune. And basically it has about 8 seeds in. I'm paying about 4 or 5 times more for these seeds than anything else, but I just couldn't resist it. I mean, at the end of the day, I've paid for the most beautiful packaging possibly imaginable. And you've got to think to yourself sometimes, you just, spur of the moment, you think, I just love the way that looks. And I do like patty pan squash. And the reason that I'm showing you the patty pan squash with the beans, the other thing you want to get in now is sweet corn, and I'll be showing you later how I germinate my sweet corn, because I don't just put them straight out. And I'll be sowing these beans in a second, but I grow mine in what was sort of a method called the Three Sisters. And it was a method that the Native Americans used to use, and I tend to use Trail of Tears, which is my other all-time favourite bean. It's a small black bean. And what it is, you plant your sweet corn, and you plant your sweet corn in a block, and that's really, really important. Sweet corn has very, very heavy pollen, and it doesn't cross-pollinate very well, so a block isn't what you need to plant it in. And sweet corn needs lots of sun, but really doesn't like its roots very hot. So if you take a small summer squash, like this patty pan, or you could take summer dumpling or one of the others, plant that at the bottom of the squash, at the bottom of the sweet corn, and the leaves will shade the actual sweet corn roots, and they both grow quite happily. One's growing on the ground, one's growing right above the ground. And you can plant at the bottom of each one of those sweet corn a bean plant, and that bean will use the sweet corn stem to grow up. And as that bean grows, there are nodules on the bean roots that fix nitrogen, and one of the things that is absolutely loved by squash or courgettes or pumpkins is nitrogen. So they benefit. It's a real symbiotic relationship. I mean, synergy, the simple way to think of a symbiotic relationship is the total is more than the sum of the parts. 1 + 1 = 3. It means that by putting things together, we get more at the end. And it's a great way to grow. If you've only got a small space, it means you're getting 3 things out of the same space as 1. It's also great if you're growing at schools or something like that for children. Also, this month, still plenty of time to get your herbs in. You really have got to get your winter greens sown this month. I know it seems a long time, but they take months and months to grow. Another sowing of salad would be really good this month. Turnips, great to go in now. None of the Japanese greens, too late for them now. You've got to wait till after the longest day or they'll bolt. Too early for something like Florence fennel. But it's the time of year where lots can get sown. The way that I sow my beans, I'll show you now. First choice for your beans, are you going to grow them in toilet rolls, or are you going to grow them in root trainers? There are some people who say that some of these toilet rolls are treated with, or the glue that the toilet rolls are made with can stop germination. I've never found it myself, but you never know. Beans, dead easy to sow, big, simple, they don't need pre-soaking. one into each of these root trainers, about twice as deep. If some don't germinate, you're only going to lose the compost, which is pennies. The other thing to remember at this time of the year, you need to keep potting on things like your tomatoes, melons, cucumbers, both of which need sowing now. And although it might seem like an extravagant, one of the quickest things you can get is a potting trowel. This is a potting trowel. It's got a curve at one side. If you get it, don't hold it like a normal trowel. You really want it sort of on your fingers. And when it comes into its own, it's for manoeuvring compost and things like this, or say you've got something really fine, you can fill it so much easier. Perfect birthday gift. Obviously not for me, I've got one, but someone else's birthday. Really, really easy. I mean, when I was first given this, I thought, another one of those 2-minute wonders. I have to say, I've been more than impressed. If you haven't planted cucumbers yet, I would strongly suggest you grow one of the smaller ones. Parisian pickling cucumber is good. Again, for most of us, a small fresh cucumber is much better than half a large one, and they make fantastic gherkins. Quick, simple. Leave it in the greenhouse, leave it in a polytunnel. Once they germinate, again, tiny bit of bottom heat, but not too much heat on the top. Slowly. Tortoise and hare, I come back to this over and over again. This is about growing things gently. It's not a race, it's about taste. Look out on your fruit for codling moth, things like that. That could start now. We're going to do a quick update in the fruit garden, which will be in the subscribers newsletter, because some quite interesting things on what's been happening with the gooseberries, with the different types of rootstocks they've got. Also, I'm going to be talking about weeds. I'm going to one of the things that's really interesting when your seeds come up is notice how different once you've got past the seed leaves. The seed leaves again are these first leaves. Now, I'm not sure how close we can get in on here. The second leaves start to look really shredded like parsley, but the first of that just classic elliptical little green leaf. Very similar on most plants. It's really important to start to be able to identify what are your plants and what are weeds, so that when you're weeding, especially outside, you don't pull up all your little weed seedlings. I hope that's of some help. Any questions you've got, please give me, drop me a line, drop me an email, and I'll try and answer them. This month, like I say, everything gets going. The other thing I would really recommend is it's the start of our sowing along with Benjamin Ranyard from Higgledy Garden. He is a flower grower, and he's going to talk us through how to sow hardy annuals, and he's going to grow them for us here in the allotment. And show us just how much colour and diversity and interest you can get from what is probably the cheapest way to add all of those things to your garden. So that's a film that I really would worth watching. Ben is a font of knowledge and quite an entertaining gentleman, even if he didn't grow flowers. So that's Mark saying thanks a lot. I hope you're enjoying it, and I'll see you next time. What I'd like to show you now is a technique I use for germinating sweet corn. When sweet corn arrive, if we focus in on my hand here, they are like tiny little teeth. They're as hard as bullets. And sweet corn need a minimum of 18 degrees to germinate. Less than 18 degrees and they'll just rot in the soil. Once they've germinated, they'll actually grow at less than that, but they do need a minimum of 18. I tend to germinate mine at 20 degrees. But what I do, which is something I was shown a long time ago by my uncle, is get some kitchen roll, soak a piece of it, and then wring it out, soak another piece and wring that out. And this is called pre-germination. Get rid of the water. And what pre-germination means is that we're going to germinate the seeds before we sew it. Some of you may have heard of a technique called fluid sewing which is something similar. So take a double layer of your tissue, line just a plastic container, and scatter your sweet corn onto the damp tissue. And then all we do is place the other layer of tissue on top. If we can undo it. So we're sort of encasing it in moist tissue. We're going to wrap this in cling film, and that's going to go into our propagator. You could use an airing cupboard, you could put it, you know, near your Arga, something like that. Minimum of 18 degrees, and keep a very close eye on it. And what you're looking for is the emergence of shoots, and the minute you get that little embryonic shoot, we then pop those on. I pop mine into root trainers, one to a root trainer, because you can actually see which ones have germinated, and grow them on normally. They won't go out for at least 6 weeks yet, and as I said earlier in the film, when we plant them, we've got to plant them in blocks. You know, you can't do a row of sweet corn. You'll get no sweet corn because you'll get no pollination. Quite a simple technique, quite easy, and certainly works fantastically with sweet corn, which can be a devil and rots off a lot. So I hope that is of some help. Let me know how you get on with it. So that's things to do in May. What I would say, if you're in England, we've had such a cold April, it might be worth watching things to do in April as well. We've sort of combined 2 months really. I mean, we've had a glorious week this week, and it feels as though we've done sort of April, May, and we're sort of nearly into early June in a week. So it could be worth watching if you haven't watched it. Things to do in April on the website. Any problems you've got, any questions you've got, don't hesitate to ask me. I hope you're enjoying your gardening. We're certainly enjoying making these films for you. And if you haven't yet watched our How to Grow Hardy Annual Flowers, it's a new series we've got, and I'm really excited about it. Well, mainly because I only do 50% of the work, which is fantastic, and I've got a flower growing expert helping me, so that's worth a watch as well. That's Mark saying thanks ever such a lot for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy it.